Just gonna start. Good morning.
Good morning.
Minnesotans are ready, and I believe that 2023 is the year that we will legalize adult use cannabis in Minnesota. And that process starts today as we introduce a bill on the House floor. This is a bill, maybe we can hold it here for a second, the bill. And then we will hear this bill in the House Commerce Committee, give its first hearing next week on the 11th. Over the last 3 years, DFLers in the legislature have listened and worked to build a Minnesota-specific model for cannabis legalization. And frankly, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that we've engaged in among the most robust bill development processes of any legislation in the history of the legislature. Our bill will create a safe, well-regulated, legal marketplace where Minnesotans can grow, sell, and buy cannabis if they choose to do so. It includes best practices for consumer protection, health, and public safety. Critically, it includes a robust expungement program so that people, and we should be very clear that it has been disproportionately people of color who have been caught in the criminal justice system due to cannabis offenses, are able to move on with their lives. Last year, then Majority Leader Ryan Winkler took the bill through 14 committees, and after a robust and full vetting, the bill passed off the House floor with a bipartisan majority. This year, we will engage in a very similar process in the House, starting with our first hearing in the House Commerce Committee next Wednesday, January 11th, and we expect a similar end result, bipartisan support. The difference is we now have a Senate that is actually willing to have a conversation about this. And I believe, and Senator Port will talk more about this in a minute, that when the Senate has that discussion, they will reach the same conclusion that we have in the House. Cannabis should not be illegal in Minnesota. Minnesotans deserve the freedom and respect to make responsible decisions about cannabis decisions themselves. Our current laws are doing more harm than good. State and local governments are spending millions enforcing laws that aren't helping anyone, money that could be put to far better purposes. There is a better way where we're honest about cannabis and its impact and model our laws accordingly. And with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Port.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Port. I represent Burnsville and Savage. I am really honored to stand here as the lead author on cannabis in the Senate, and I will be working this bill through the system in the Senate with Senator Claire Umu Verbaeten, who will also be speaking to you tonight. While the Senate has not had a conversation on cannabis before, we have been watching the process move through the House. So we have seen the intense engagement from Minnesotans on this issue. We've heard about it in our communities, and we are ready to act. We are going to take, some time to educate our members and make sure that we are able to build the same kind of bipartisan support that has been built in the House. That comes through conversations and it comes through committee hearings. We are going to have the same in-depth process that the House had. It will move through a number of committees through the Senate, and I am in conversations with several chairs about that first committee hearing, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. The Senate is committed to making sure that we right this wrong. Cannabis being illegal here in Minnesota, as Representative Stephenson said, has done more harm than good, and it is time that we change that. I am committed as the Senate author to make sure that we move this through the process this year and make adult use cannabis legal here in Minnesota. Thank you.
We have a few other speakers. Angela Dawson is here to speak.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. My name is Angela Dawson. I am a fourth-generation Minnesota farmer, and I live in Pine County, Minnesota. I'm also a mother and a grandmother and an entrepreneur who has hired a lot of people in my community to work on my hemp farm. I co-founded an organization called the 40 Acre Cooperative, and we're working cooperatively to help folks who have been socially disadvantaged and historically underrepresented in this marketplace to be able to access farming opportunities within the hemp and cannabis industry. And I can think of 3 really good reasons why the legislators need to work on this bill and pass it as a priority in this session. And first of all is, the really, I'd say in some instances, egregious public health outcomes that we have between non-white and white Minnesotans. that has earned us the nickname of the Mississippi of the North, because some of those outcomes are comparable, especially for Black and Native communities, to Mississippi health outcomes. And it is because we don't have equitable access to quality of life measures that other Minnesotans enjoy. Of course, really importantly, we've already heard about the criminal justice inequities. That's not a secret. I think all of us know that something needs to happen there. But more importantly, we need to talk about the economic opportunities that not only communities of color are missing out on, but also rural farmers in Minnesota. In the county that I live in, the health and food access and poverty measures are similar to that as Hennepin County, but we get half of the resources. And I can just say from my own experience of operating a cannabis farm and a hemp farm in the last couple of years in this state, and that is that people are looking for jobs in rural Minnesota, and they see cannabis as a clear opportunity and something that we're really good at, especially in organic and sustainable practices, which we need more of in the agricultural community here in Minnesota. I don't want to take up too much time, but I also want to say it's really important for us to think about the public safety measures that can be adopted as well in a new smart cannabis legalization bill, and that we will not have unequal enforcement in rural communities and in communities of color across the state of Minnesota. So I thank you all for having me here, and I'll be available for questions later. Thank you.
And next we have Olivia.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Olivia Morawicki, and I really appreciate your time in this platform. I am the founder of Cursive Organics. It's a local women-owned cannabis company that was started in March of 2020. In addition to running Cursive, I'm an active community member, a mother, and director of a nonprofit in St. Paul that helps the elderly and aging. I'm also an advocate for the legalization of marijuana. I started my business after experiencing life-changing relief from cannabis. I'd lived with debilitating digestive issues for 5 years that were not covered by medical marijuana, and my symptoms were arrested entirely after 1 month of using CBD and THC oil. After this experience, I understood the healing power of cannabis and its effectiveness in helping people recover from everyday ailments and a natural way to cope with illnesses. My company's mission is simple: to help people utilize the relief and restoration available through cannabis. The top 3 reasons people purchase products are for insomnia, anxiety, and pain, not to get high, but to heal. We have an excellent opportunity to end prohibition. Due to prohibition, cannabis laws are disproportionately enforced, and an incredible number of Americans are put through the criminal justice system. I hope we can move forward with laws that help people use cannabis responsibly and facilitate much-needed relief for life's daily issues. Thank you.
Senator?
Hello, I'm Senator Claire Umu Verbaten. I represent District 66 in the Minnesota Senate. That includes St. Paul, Roseville, Vulcan Heights, and Lauderdale. And I'll be brief. We heard really loud and clear from Minnesotans that we cannot legalize cannabis without expungement. This is a racial justice issue, and as we have heard, the harm that has been done to communities of color needs to end. We are committed to getting this done, and we just got through a historic election where we now have Black women serving in the Minnesota Senate for the first time. I'm really proud to be one of those women alongside my sister, Senator Zainab Muhammad. We are going to get this done in 2023. We are going to make sure that it includes expungement and that we right these wrongs. Thank you.
Senator?
Hello, everybody. It's nice to see many of you again. I'm Jess Hansen. I represent District 55A along with the wonderful chief author of our bill in the Senate. And I'm looking forward to all the work that we are going to do this year on cannabis. You've heard me talk about this a lot, and back in July, I told many of you, if Minnesotans would like to see legal cannabis in Minnesota, send Democrats back to St. Paul. And that's exactly what voters in Minnesota did. Voters in Minnesota told us loud and clear that they are looking to end the failed system of cannabis prohibition. Going forward, we will hear from many different folks impacted by this bill. Business owners, people who consume cannabis, people who have been disproportionately impacted, and we continue to encourage people to reach out and let us know what's important to you. Look at the committee schedules, feel free to sign up and testify. This is a program that we'd like to make sure is by and for Minnesotans. Prohibition has failed too many people, and we have an opportunity to make it right and to do this in a way that reflects our values. We know that the communities of color have been disproportionately impacted by this, and that continues to be one of our highest priorities as we have this conversation. So I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm really excited to get this bill dropped and get this moving, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being here again.
Good morning. My name is Aisha Gomez. I represent District 62A, the south side of Minneapolis. And so a bill that looks like this, that we have the first week of session, represents, we're good, but we're not good enough to do this since in the time that we've had the majority in our hands. So, the work that's represented in this bill was led by Majority Leader Winkler, and I just want to say that he really led an inclusive process. He brought in dozens, if not hundreds, of community advocates. He had a listening tour all around the state. He went to every corner of the state to hear from Minnesotans about the way that cannabis prohibition was impacting their lives. He involved, it was 2019, which seems like a decade ago, but it was just a few short years ago. But, many of us spent dozens or hundreds of hours of our time going through all of the different policy decisions that are reflected in this document. So I think it's a really good work product. The community groups have engaged really heavily on this and made it better. Our members who have brought their concerns into this process made it better. And what is going to happen in the next couple months as we go through all of the committee stops is that this bill is going to get even better. And, things have changed since 2019, even in this space, right? People have implemented cannabis legalization around the country, so there are new lessons learned that need to be incorporated into this. But the history with this bill is that, it's just been made better and better by the more input that we get. And so I'm just deeply grateful to all of the people who put so much time and effort into this work product, many of whom are here in the room today. Finally, I just want to mention, since I'm the tax chair and there are tax implications to this, and that was a portion of the original work that I paid special attention to at the time, of course, is that cannabis taxes in our bill are not going to solve any of our social problems. We're not going to use cannabis taxes to fix, the education changes that our communities need, to build all the affordable housing that we need, to fix all the infrastructure that we need. We designed this bill to address the wrongs of prohibition, to bring people out of the illicit market and into a regulated market, which means that we tried to not have a really high tax on cannabis so that it can compete. So I just wanted to say that as a sort of scolding tax-related final note. Just again, deep gratitude to all of the people who are here and who are not here, but who have made this bill what it is. Thank you so much.
We can now take questions, Senator Port and I can. Yeah.
So is this language as it is look like identical to the 2021 proposal from Representative Winkler that passed in the House?
Not identical, but very similar. I would say that during the interim, we worked hard, worked with stakeholders, and Majority Leader Winkler continued to work on the bill to refine. And I think you heard Chair Gomez talk about how we continue to learn from experiences in other states. And so there are changes, but they are, I don't want to say technical, but they are not huge substantive changes. The structure of this, the meat and potatoes is still the same as it was in last year's bill.
Senator, we keep hearing the Senate's going to move more slowly on this. Is that an excuse for the Senate not to get it done, to water it down, kind of lay out the politics and how different this plays in the Senate than the House?
Absolutely not. I am committed. I know Claire is committed. Our caucus has some learning to do, for sure. We haven't gone through the process the same way the House has, which allowed their members to learn and hear about it. But that just means we have more work to do as lead authors. It means we are doing education sessions, we're bringing community in to meet with senators, but we are committed to moving this through the process this year.
And also, do you think you'll have bipartisan support, you reaching across the aisle? 'Cause
I'm
guessing your caucus isn't
hopeful.
enough. Could you address that? Do you
Yeah,
think you
I'm
have
really
the vote?
hopeful that we will have bipartisan support. As we move through this process in the Senate, we are committed to inviting and including the Republican caucus as well. We have left one of the author spaces blank on this bill in hopes that one of the members of the Republican caucus will join us as a co-author on the bill. We are definitely committed to that, but I will also say we will not wait for that. We are committed to passing this. The voters, the people of Minnesota have told us that they want regulated adult use cannabis. And while I am hopeful and will work to get bipartisan support, if we don't, I'm still committed to moving the bill.
Do you plan to fold regulations for hemp-derived edibles into this bill, or a separate bill, or what's the plan?
Yes, the idea in this bill is that there really should be one system of regulation that addresses all of these products. And so the bill does, that's one of the differences from last year's bill, is it does address the hemp-derived developments that happened last summer. There are provisions in the bill that
Well,
address
in what way? I mean, do you clean up the meal you made of that issue? Do you put in regulation, licensing, taxation?
I'm going to not accept the premise of your question, but that we made a mess of it. But I will say I mean, I love your puns. As I said, we think that there should be one comprehensive system of regulation and taxation that treats all of these substances in a similar fashion. So it should be clear across the board.
But some states with recreational just don't allow hemp because it's an inferior product, particularly in vaping and other products like that. They just do not allow hemp products once they have marijuana products in the same spaces. So is that a possibility, or will we still have two systems?
Speaking for myself, I don't think of that as a possibility. I think that the hemp-derived market has been successful in Minnesota, and Minnesotans are experiencing success from it. So I don't see why we would take that off the place. And I'll just note that the THC-infused beverage market, which has been hemp-derived, has been growing exponentially since last summer, and has been a really good business development opportunity for Minnesota where we can be a leader. So I don't see taking hemp out.
Chair Stephenson, if this bill passes as you envision it, when would people be able to legally purchase marijuana? And is the expungement portion perhaps earlier, because that doesn't necessarily require a new regulatory system?
Yeah, we'll talk about effective dates and everything as we go through the process. Under this bill, I think it would be a matter of months, not years, before you would be able to be in a legal marketplace, and I think the expungement process would begin sooner than that.
How much money do you think we're talking? Do you have any ballpark on revenue?
My recollection, and I'm going to look back at the tax chair, is like 150 million.
It was less than that, but.
Yeah, it's not, as Chair Gomez says, the point of this is not to raise revenue for the state of Minnesota. We should not legalize cannabis to raise revenue for the state of Minnesota. There are many reasons to do this. That is not one of them. Our goal in this bill was to have a stable marketplace that's self-sufficient so that the tax revenue funds the needed regulation, but isn't going to go, as Chair Gomez said, to fund the schools. That's not a good reason to do this, and it would undermine the intent of the bill, which is to move from an illicit marketplace into a well-regulated marketplace if we had high taxes.
Do you have a rate in mind? Is there a rate in the bill of taxation?
Yeah, I think it's 8%.
I think we went, I thought it was 10, but maybe, it's between the normal sales tax rate and 10%. I think we maybe put a couple points on it.
Okay.
And when you say adult use, 18?
21.
Why do you call it adult use then, if it's 21?
People who are 21 are adults.
Would there be interest in lowering to 18, or do you want to stay at 21?
I think 21 is I think 21 is a good place to be. And we've moved to 21 on tobacco, over 21 on alcohol.
Is there any particular state you modeled this after, or?
No, and I mean, I'm happy to let other people speak to this too who were really involved in the, I don't want to, it wasn't just me, right, as both of these authors said. But as I said, we looked at states all across the country. We developed a Minnesota-specific model here that learned from successes, but also failures in other states. So this is a product that is unique to Minnesota, a model that's unique to Minnesota, and I think it puts us in a unique position to be successful in Minnesota.
Aside from the legalization regulatory, does your bill address things like traffic safety and workplace safety, those types of things that have come up as potential areas of concern by opponents?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, it's not a thin bill. It is comprehensive, and there's a reason why in the House it went through 14. You want me to? I can here, do that again. There's a reason why it went through 14 committees, because it really does touch a lot of different issues. There are a lot of concerns that need to be addressed, but we think have been addressed in this bill. And we'll continue to listen and work with stakeholders and try to meet people where they're at to try and build the best bill possible.
Can you talk about how tribal nations fit into your bill and, can they participate in the marketplace outside of reservations?
I am so glad you asked that question, because I think it's really, no, seriously, because I think it is really important that we do this. Since the election, I have consulted, I think we're up to 9 of the 11 tribes on the issue of cannabis, and we're going to have consultations with the other 2. I want our tribal nations to be fully involved in this bill. This bill contains language that tells the governor to enter into compacts both on the medicinal side and on the adult use side. Our caucus's view is that the marketplace should be structured to benefit people who were harmed by the previous prohibition regime and to benefit local and small over big and national. The tribes fit right into that on both points. And so I think that they have a great opportunity if they choose to be. They're sovereign nations, right? And that's why we have compacting language.
Can I ask a question of Chair Gomez? Hi.
Hi.
You talk about you just want this tax to kind of pay for the system, which includes things like, I think it used to include the loan program to try to help people get into the business because you can't get loans, et cetera. But some of the other states have had trouble even having enough revenue to pay for regulation, taxation, et cetera. So how comfortable are you that this tax rate pays the bills of just what the bill creates?
Yeah, it's a good question, and what we found when we were writing this bill was that there are, economists who sort of try to project what a market in the future might look like, but that analysis has sort of mixed results from what we saw. So there is, and we kind of built in a little bit of flexibility. It's why we created, we create a cannabis control board so that they will be able to kind of like, in as much as they can as a state agency to respond to what the market realities are, because we're really just not quite sure about there are a lot of questions about that. But the thing is that we don't create like special revenue accounts in this bill. It's general fund, right? So what our commitment is to the people of Minnesota is that we're going to make sure that that people are safe, that our law enforcement have the resources that they need to respond to this, that the regulators have the resources that they need to respond to this, that we are being true to the values that we started this process with, in that we are going to do our best to ensure that there are pathways into this marketplace for communities that have been disproportionately impacted. And so that's why, it's sort of like, I guess I said that, we want the revenue to pay for stuff that's in this bill, but we don't do like a dedication of revenue in this bill. And so our commitment to the health and safety and equity that is encompassed here remains regardless of kind of like where that potentially like volatile revenue stream lands.
Does your bill
It's time for one more.
Does your bill address both the banking issues that other states have seen and businesses have seen across the U.S., as well as the ongoing federal prohibition on marijuana? Does this bill deal with any of those issues, or?
Well, as you mentioned, those are federal issues. We can't control the federal banking regulations. Minnesota banks, I was just having a conversation with bankers last night, would love to be engaged with businesses here. And so they encouraged me to squeeze the arms of our senators and representatives, which we will do, but that's not in the bill.
So there's nothing you can do about the federal rules or the banking issues in Minnesota law?
If we could control the federal government, holy smokes, we'd have a lot of fun. But we have to get up to the floor.
Can I just ask one question on this? Sure. Obviously, you've got a lot of cameras here, there's a lot of people who pay attention to this issue. How do you keep it from becoming all-consuming and make it seem to the public like this is your top priority when you have other things that you want to do as well?
Well, part of that is on us and part of that is on you, right? We do a lot of really incredible work in committee. I know committees sometimes can seem like they're long and boring, but we are going to be doing a large number of really important things. I think in the bill introductions, what number did you end up with?
100.
He ended up with 100. So that shows you that there are 99 bills that made the cut sooner than cannabis. So if you look at the top, I think about 30, 35 bills, you'll see where we're going to be spending the vast majority of our time this session. Sorry that we have floor session now, so thank you.
Very much.